My name is Mwansana Mwambila Mlenga. Let's take a look at the headlines. Cooperatives who benefited from a presidential initiative of solar milling plants in Shiwangandu district in Muchinga province have been urged to venture into massive milling mill production in order to help lessen the price of the staple food in the district. The Zambia National Students Union has challenged various researchers across the country to come on board with ideas that will help the country address the load-shedding predicament. Atlas Mara Bank, in partnership with the World Panel Zambia, has donated over 4,722 pieces of solar charging and lighting kits worth $88,229 United States dollars to the Ministry of Community Development, Mother and Child Health. In international news, scores of Kenyan students and teachers have been hospitalized after a dangerous chemical was used during the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education chemistry examination. In sports news, Sports Minister Emmanuel Mulenga has urged the Zambia under-23 national team to put the 3-1 loss to Nigeria behind them and focus on Friday's must-win encounter against Ivory Coast. These are your headlines. Do stay tuned for the news in detail.
The news, 88.5 Sun FM.
Thank you for staying with us. And now the news in detail. Cooperatives who benefited from a presidential initiative of solar milling plants in Shiwangandu district in Muchinga province have been urged to venture into massive milling mill production in order to help lessen the price of the staple food in the district. Shiwangandu District Commissioner Evelyn Kangwa says beneficiaries of solar milling plants need to work towards achieving the objectives of the initiative by producing a large quantity of milling meal, thereby income to enable the cooperatives pay back the loans and salaries of milling operators. Muchinga Province Senior Cooperative Development Officer Abel Ngoma, who revealed this, said cooperatives should be viewed as businesses, adding that there is need therefore for cooperative members to change the misconception that the purpose of a cooperative is for one to access farming inputs. Stressing that this misconception has contributed to the poor performance of the solar milling plants, Mr. Ngoma further said that if cooperatives in Shiwangandu district begin to operate as business entities, they will greatly contribute to the socio-economic development of the district and the country as a whole. Zanis reports that the Senior Cooperative Development Officer has since called on cooperatives to scale up their production so that they can generate more income and be able to pay back the loans. And Muchinga Province Coordinator for Zambia Cooperatives Federation, Bright Shangala, said if the solar milling plants are utilized well, cooperatives can be able to produce large quantities of milling meal because the machines are able to produce approximately 25 per 25 kg bags of milling meal per day. The Zambia National Students Union has challenged various researchers across the country to come on board with ideas that will help the country address the load-shedding predicament. ZANASU President Mishek Kakonde told Sun FM News in Lusaka that there was need for people with knowledge in different fields such as engineering and water management to bring up ideas on how water can be conserved.
Consider hydroelectricity as a by-the-way thing because it has proven to be hazardous to this country by we experiencing load shedding even more than 14 hours. I think it is high time that government should bring in the aspect of also wind energy to complement the solar energy that they are, moving in. That is the direction we wish to see as the Zambia National Students Union, and we believe.
Rushed to the institution to assess the extent of the damage. School head teacher Stedwell Gandula explained that the 5 classrooms whose roofs were completely ripped off include classrooms of grades 10, 12, and 11. Mr. Gandula said one of the affected classrooms was being used for the ongoing grade 12 examinations. He said his administration has been complied to find alternative space in an incomplete structure being constructed by the local community within the school grounds. Mr. Gandula laminated that the destruction of the over 20 computers and books in the library is a major setback at the newly upgraded secondary school. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education has made a passionate appeal to relevant authorities to come to the aid of Mbole Primary and Secondary School as the hailstorm disaster has completely crippled operations at the learning institutions. And in more news, Atlas Mara Bank, in partnership with the World Panel Zambia, has donated over 4,722 pieces of solar charging and lighting kits worth $88,229 United States dollars to the Ministry of Community Development, Mother and Child Health in a bid to promote financial inclusion and entrepreneurship, especially among women and youth. Speaking during the donation in Lusaka today, Atlas Mara acting manager Eric Ngondo said that the solar kits were intended for on distribution to the needy communities that the ministry was supporting under the social cash transfer program, especially those that are not served under the electricity grid.
In developing countries such as Zambia, there is still a significant percentage of the population outside the electricity grid. Because of the lack of electricity in rural areas, health services are poor, schools are without access to electricity, which limits the capability of pupils. And entrepreneurs, especially women and youths, lack consistent power to innovate. Today, mobile money technology has reached virtually every district in Zambia. But mobile money phones need to power, to charge, and become usable.
And World Panel Zambia Limited Chief Executive Officer Jacob Sikazwe said that the continued challenge in the electricity deficit needed a new solution. He said that power deficit, especially in rural areas, was one of the biggest challenges as there had been communication barriers. Mr. Sikazwe added that the solar charging and lighting kits would help alleviate the challenges faced.
We have been on this journey for some time now, and we have donated to various institutions because we are not just passionate, but we are inspired by the efforts that each of these institutions that we have identified in our way to contribute towards making the life better are those institutions that we believe are touching the most needed people in our country.
Meanwhile, Minister of Community Development, Mother and Child Health, Kampamba Mlenga Chewe, said that the donation would contribute towards the welfare of vulnerable people in the country. She said the underprivileged community would benefit greatly as many had no access to the national electricity grid.
In many cases, however, underprivileged communities rely on petroleum products, mainly kerosene, commonly known as paraffin, as their principal means of lighting, either because the electricity grid has not reached their area, or if it has, they have no access to it. Solar energy utilizes the sun's energy without a need to generate pollution or similar byproducts which can result in greenhouse gas emissions, water or air pollution. This donation will go a long way in meeting some of the domestic energy needs for our vulnerable households, in particular those on the social cash transfer program and other vulnerable households that have school-going children and who need domestic lighting for purposes of reading and studying at night.
And on that note, we have come to our first break on the Sun FM Sunset News. Do stay with us. When we return, we have international news.
For many years,
your radio's been sounding like this.
So boring. Now forget those days. The freshest wave of radio is here, providing you with news, great music and much more entertainment with crystal clear sound. Sun 88.5. Everyone is listening.
Thank you for staying with us, and a special welcome to our viewers and listeners from South Africa and the United Kingdom. And now the international news. Scores of Kenyan students and teachers have been hospitalized after a dangerous chemical was used during the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education chemistry examination. One student suffered serious burns on his face during the practical examination, while others were hospitalized after suffering dizziness. Apollo Otieno was heating the chemical xylene to observe its reaction at a laboratory in St. Peter's Mixed Secondary School in Kajulu, Kisumu, when it exploded and burnt his face, the Daily Nation newspaper reported. The chemical that exploded has been used as an alternative after the Ministry of Education gave those instructions in a circular. Kenya National Examinations Council acting head Mercy Karago sent a circular on November the 1st asking principals to purchase xylene as an alternative to the safer xylocaine. The circular also directed the school heads where to buy the chemical. A supplier wrote to Ms. Karago days later requesting her to instruct school administrators to store the chemical in glass bottles. The Standard newspaper reported that a teacher had been hospitalized in Trans Nzoia County after developing complications during the practical. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers told the media that several students and teachers were treated after complaining of dizziness and some collapsed during the practicals. The government has denied that chemicals used in the examination were poisonous. The Ministry of Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha stated that most of the substances that are used in chemistry are dangerous. The substance of xylene that they are talking about is not as dangerous as chlorine or bromine. When the BBC contacted the ministry for a comment on the burnt student, the Permanent Secretary Belio Kipsang did not respond. He had previously indicated that there had been no formal complaint. And on that unfortunate note, we've come to our final break in the Sun FM Sunset News. Do stay with us. When we return, exciting sport news.
There are only 2 radio stations on the planet. Zambia's first multi-genre hit radio, Sun FM. And any other station. Keep it locked to 88.5 FM.
Thank you for staying with us. And finally, the sports news. Zambia and Cameroon will play each other in January to decide who will automatically qualify for the women's football tournament at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. The loser of that game will face Chile in a playoff for another place at the Games. Unlike the men's Olympic football tournament, the women's event is open to full national teams rather than under-23 sides. It would be Zambia's first ever appearance in the women's Olympic football tournament, while Cameroon played at the 2012 Games in London, where they lost all 3 of their games. Meanwhile, Football Association of Zambia President Andrew Kamanga says the under-23 lads still have a big chance to qualify to the semi-finals with a win against Ivory Coast on Friday in the final Group B match. Addressing the players at Novotel Hotel this morning, Kamanga urged the team to repay the faith the Zambian public has in the Bola Nalesa squad with victory on Friday. Kamanga said the team had received all the necessary support from government and needed to deliver to the public's expectations. Kamanga said the fans had a lot of faith in the under-23 squad and were hoping for a victory in the next match. The Football Association of Zambia boss said he believed the team would qualify to the semi-finals on Friday. And Sports Minister Emmanuel Mulenga has urged the Zambia under-23 national team to put the 3-1 loss to Nigeria behind them and focus on Friday's must-win encounter against Ivory Coast. Addressing the team at the same event, Sports Permanent Secretary Joe Kapembwa said government was behind their team in the chase for Olympic qualification. And on that encouraging note for the footballers, we have come to the end of the Sun FM Sunset News. Before we leave, a look at the headlines once again.